Hello, everybody. Today I have with me Matt and Luigi. Matt and Luigi are owners of the Shield Advisory Group. They help businesses in many aspects, especially in funding, but there's many other things they do as well. In addition to the Shield Advisory Group, they also run the Liquid Lunch Project podcasts, which they have allowed me to be on at one point in time. Definitely something you need to look up, definitely something you need to watch. Luigi and Matt, how about a little bit of background information on yourselves, how you became the Shield Advisory Group, and how you help businesses?
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate being on here and trying to help all the businesses that are coming on as well. As Greg said, my name is Matthew. I'm Matthew R. Meehan. I'm the CEO and co-founder alongside Luigi of Shield Advisory Group. We're a full-service consulting firm that helps clients get access to both credit and capital. I spent about 17 years on Wall Street prior to owning Shield or founding Shield. And I worked with a lot of major businesses. And one thing that I found when I converted into the small business realm is that these smaller businesses don't have access to the same tools and resources that larger corporations do in America. And it really hurts them. So me and Luigi came together and, after talking for a while, we developed Shield Advisory Group to actually serve the needs of small businesses, whether it's getting them access to credit and capital, like I said before, or helping them structure deals, or sometimes just being a soundboard, because we both know, and you know as well, Greg, sometimes being a business owner is pretty lonely and you need other people to bounce ideas off of.
Excellent. Definitely almost everybody that I work with needs funding at some point in time to get into their business as well. Is there anything in particular that people need to consider as they're looking into funding? Any certain requirements that they need to have?
Well, there's a lot that needs to be thought about prior to going to get funding. But what I tell everybody is we have a motto over here. We call it the 3 C's. There's 3 ways to get a loan. It's going to be cash flow, credit, or collateral. Like we said, the 3 C's. The more C's you have, the better off you're going to be. However, you don't necessarily need all 3 C's to go out and get funding for your business. We just got to find your strength that's unique to you and your business, and then we can go and attack it and then find the funding that works for you using your strength or your C, so to speak.
Got it. So has there been any changes in the last couple of years with everything going on with the funding, or is it still readily available for any businesses?
Well, there's been a lot of funding changes recently, right? So there's different types of funding, right? Whether you're looking to acquire a company or you're looking to expand and you're in growth mode and you're looking for capital, there's a lot of big differences out there that people need to realize. When people start initially thinking of funding, who's the first place that they turn to? They go to their local bank. But I'm going to be the first guy to tell you that most banks out there, they're not your friend and they're not going to lend to you unless you have an A++ criteria on paper, or you have some history with them in the past, right? So if we move back and we look back to 2008, banks were lending, money was flowing freely. But what happened after 2008 is with Dodd-Frank and all these laws that were passed, banks really tightened up and they weren't lending to small businesses. So there was another, and I mean, with technology growing at that point too, there's been another class of lending coming out, which we refer to as alternative finance, which are not your traditional banks, but larger corporations or private individuals that'll lend money to a small business using some instruments that, the general public's not familiar with, right? And it's both good and bad, right? If there's a need and it makes sense, sometimes rates can be a lot higher than when they're at the bank. But if you ever tried to get funding at a bank before, you know as well as I do, they want to see everything on your whole rap sheet. And sometimes to get that loan, they want the first blood of your newborn child.
Very true. Very true. They do ask for a lot and they're very particular sometimes. So it would be good to have an alternative source like yourself, Matt, Luigi, to go out and check on there.
Before you even decide to
go ahead.
Sorry, I think we have a delay. But I was going to say, before you even decide to go to a bank, what you want to do is make sure your personal credit report is pristine, get all the blemishes off there. And if you have lower than a 700 credit score, even actually, I'd say 730 these days, I wouldn't even start there. You're just going to be wasting your time. And, banks don't want to tell you no because they want to hold your deposits there for your new business too. So they draw it out as long as possible, and time kills everything. Could kill the deal of you possibly buying that business as well.
Very true for the new businesses. What about a brand new startup? Have you worked with the franchise industry for brand new startups? Is that any different than buying, say, a business that's already existing?
Well, franchises, if you have good credit and you have some type of assets, generally the rule of thumb, and a lot of business brokers will tell you to get an SBA loan. SBA loans are great. They go out 10 years, and the 7A loan goes out 10 years, and it's working capital, and you can purchase either property or the business with it too. But again, you're going to have to make sure that you have all the financials for the franchise, all the financials for yourself, and your credit scores are in pristine order before you apply, right? As far as other startup type of funding, right, what generally happens is, because there's no collateral for the business and you don't have any cash flow at that certain point, it really relies heavily on your personal credit score. So it's very important that you protect and you prepare your personal credit score before you even go to look for any type of funding.
Now, I understand that the Shield Advisor Group, you do more than just funding. There's other things that you can do to help businesses build themselves up. Could you go into some of the other services that you provide for businesses as part of the Shield Advisory Group?
Greg, my partner said this earlier very succinctly, is our mantra is to find the programs and services for the small businesses that are readily available to corporate America. And whether that's tax credits, whether that's some proactive tax planning, whether it's the right POS system, maybe the right payroll service provider. Look at it this way. The candlestick maker should be focused on making candles. The baker should be focused on baking bread, and should not be bogged down with the administrative tasks that is the current reality of having a small business in America. So if we can serve as an ally in supporting all that infrastructure that now is necessary to run a successful small business in America, that's basically us. We are the partner to the small business in America.
Well, fantastic. What kind of, so if somebody comes to you, small business owner, and they need some help, they want to grow their business, get a loan, grow their business, what do you ask them? How do you start with them on that?
Well, that's a great question, Greg, because, Matt said earlier, there are certain essentials necessary for getting a loan, but sometimes we put the chicken before the egg, right? The cart before the horse. What are those fundamentals, right? A company could be in its second, third, fourth year of adolescence, but doesn't have the fundamentals of credit reporting, of bookkeeping protocols. You'd be surprised how many businesses out there could not generate for you a profit and loss. The days of the ledger are over. So all these little, let's call them corporate habits, right? So that's the first thing we look for. We try to instill in these companies these corporate habits. There is an art form to running a business. Now, Matt and I have no idea how to make a good candle, and God knows we don't know how to make bread, but we do know the protocols in place to create that foundation so that you can have a profitable bakery. Make sense, Greg?
It does. So you help them with that foundation. They may know what they do specifically, what they're good at on that particular product or service, but they may not know how to encompass the whole business and how to build the whole business up and get it to grow. And that's where you come in, is building up. You hit the
nail right on the head, Greg. You'd be surprised at the magic that can occur when you leave an entrepreneur to his own devices. When an entrepreneur can think about it, an entrepreneur is a very charismatic individual. Anybody that wants to open up a business in America is a superstar in our eyes, right? So if you can let that person grow within his skill set, and whether that person's an accountant, whether that person's a contractor, whether he's an electrician, whether he's an IT fellow, whatever his skill set is, he should be focusing on his skill set and not focusing in front of a computer doing line items on a tax return, right? You should delegate all those to the professionals.
The biggest mistake that most people do is they wear way too many hats in the first 2 years. And the reason for that is they're trying to save money, and I don't blame them. But they don't understand what their time is really worth at the end of the day. Where for example, if you're a doctor and you can be seeing patients and you can bill patients out at $100 an hour, there's no reason for you to be doing a $10 an hour task or taking time off or hire a book. You should be hiring a bookkeeper and not taking a whole day off to do your books 1 day a week, because you're actually losing money at that point. So bringing in the right experts and assembling the right team, but more importantly, putting in the right systems and processes in place beforehand during that 2-year adolescent stage. Because let's face it, what we were talking about prior, no bank is going to lend to you. No bank is going to lend to you unless you have 2 years in business, right? It's too risky, because we all know the number one reason most businesses fail is they don't have their systems, operations, and team in place, but they also run out of money. So you got to clear that 24-month mark before a bank will even look into you. So what you should be focusing on is building that team in your first 2 years of business and breaking down your systems and processes. This way, after 2 years, you get the capital you need, you can seamlessly scale. And Greg, I believe that's a big reason people come to you and look at franchises in the first place, because they already have that model of systems and processes broken down, and it takes the learning curve out of it.
Good point, Matt. It is a good point. But at some point in time, even with the having a franchisor help, everybody could use a little bit of help from the outside and get a lot of more input. And I believe that is just exactly where you two come in. So whether it's a franchise or whether it's a private business, there's always something you two can do to help build them up, give them new insight into what they really should be doing and what they really should be focusing on.
Well, you know what, Greg? You don't know. Luigi says this all the time. It's probably his favorite phrase, and it's growing on me too. You don't know what you don't know. For example, we have a program right now called the ERTC tax credit. Okay, it's the only stimulus program still available to small business owners since EIDL ended and PPP. Okay, now you would think if you were working with a franchise, that's part of the franchise's job to get on the phone and let you know what's available to you, especially in these hard times. Well, believe it or not, these franchises aren't doing that. And that's where we came in. We actually helped assign business, right? We helped one location. Next thing you know, 50 franchise owners called us, right? Because guess what? The franchise itself did not know about the program, or they just misunderstood the rules, right? So bringing in outside experts and teams that understand and keep up with the changes in regime and the changes in laws is only going to help you moving forward and not hurt your business.
Very well put, Matt. That's absolutely correct. And you're really just trying to build that business up because you're really trying to build up your own dream to do it. So getting any kind of help you can is just going to be that much more beneficial and get you there that much quicker to where you want to go. So how do they get a hold of you two if they want some more information?
Well, you guys can always go to our website, www.shieldadvisorygroup.com. You can go to Apple, Spotify, and check us out at The Liquid Lunch Project. That's our podcast. We were actually just rated number 107. Go to our website, or you guys, we're pretty active on social media. So whether it's Instagram or Facebook, you can find me at Matthew R. Meehan and Luigi at Luigi Rosabianca.
So one last thing, I want to know just a little bit before we go, just a little bit more about that Liquid Lunch Project and what's that all about?
Well, Greg, the Liquid Lunch Project, you are testimony as to what it's all about, right? Our mantra is to just educate the small business owners. So what we try to do is every week we find someone that could bring value to the small business discourse and just educate our clients and really the small business community at large, right? And I got to tell you, Matt and I are having way too much fun with it because we're getting to meet some really, really sharp people, present company included. And I got to tell you, every launch on Monday morning, we get a cascade of compliments and thank yous on Monday afternoon, just because it's these pearls of wisdom are not easily available in the small business landscape.
So, the whole idea behind it was to inspire and educate small business owners, right? To help them to get to where they need to go faster by compressing time and bringing people on who have done that before. Me and Luigi have access to some individuals that most people don't. For example, we had the founder of Kayak and Travelocity on, right? We learned about the struggles that he went through when he was building them out. And then his company was acquired, and how to be an entrepreneur rather than an entrepreneur and work inside of a company. Because it's not only about building the business, you got to have some exit plan in the back of your head of where you want to go. And are you willing to work in somebody else's company after you were holding all the cards for so long?
I can definitely attest to the fact that that Liquid Lunch project is a lot of fun. Matt Luigi and I had a lot of fun when they interviewed me on that, and I've listened to quite a few of their podcasts on there. So that's definitely something. Monday mornings, check them out. The Liquid Lunch Project. If you need an introduction to Matt Luigi, don't hesitate to give me a call, and I will send out an introduction. Great couple of guys to get to know, build up your business. Matt Luigi, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. As always, a lot of fun. And thank you for elevating the discourse, man. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.